Good evening, viewers. I'm saying good evening because actually I should be saying good morning because it's just some minutes past 2 o'clock in the morning. My name is MULASE, Director Business and Program Development, Aviators Graduate School, and today I'll be sharing airline strategy from network development to business model. I hope you're really managing in this fight against COVID. You're staying at home and safe. Actually, I had planned to share airline customer service, but most of my viewers from all over the world, especially on LinkedIn, requested that I share about airline strategy from network development to business model. I hope this will help my viewers working in airline, more especially the MDs, the CEOs, those in marketing department, in network development, in commercial department of an airline, or even in strategic management of an airline. Before I start, I need to say if you're working in airline or airport or civil aviation, we have two interesting trainings that will take place in November. That will be November 30th to 4th of December in United Arab Emirates. That's Advanced Air Transport Leadership and Management. And then we shall have another training in Advanced Airport Systems with focus on design, planning and management. That will take place December 7th to 11th. And also the same trainings, actually, we have them in March 2021. So maybe you work for an airline and you want more information about these trainings, kindly send me your email, send me the email of your Director General, for your CEO, or for your Managing Director, or for head of training, or even planning, so that I can be able to email them the detailed information about these trainings. Actually, we have some of the best facilitators in the world, and they are certified FA or ICAO trainers, and most of them actually they are authors and lecturers, and besides that, they're doctors, and they have worked with airline for quite a number of years. So I really humbly request that you send me your email. You can find my email just as you started watching this clip. You can send the company email, please, so that we can be able to send you detailed information. Now, let's get started by understanding what airline strategy is all about. Obviously, today we're going to share about airline strategy from network development to business model. And I think the first thing is to understand what airline strategy is all about. Actually, airline strategy is much about creating business value for airline companies that enables airline business owners make profit and reduce losses caused by strong dependence of airlines on economic development and its impact. And obviously, airline strategies can be achieved if airline managers look for great strategies which allow them to become more efficient, either through the size of their own company or by cooperating with other airlines in alliances that create larger market, allowing them to operate more efficient and to realize the net effect in bigger entities. Now, in discussing airline strategy from network development to business model, I'll be sharing three major areas. And one of the major areas is development in aviation strategy. And I'll also be able to show you some airline strategy approaches. And that's what I'll be covering today. Besides that, I'll also share in the next episode, I'll share with you network management of airlines. And in this, I'll try to define airline net economies, the main variables of airline network design, and network management processes. Now, this will be part 2 of our discussion, which won't be today. And then the part 3, I'll be looking at airline business models, and that will mark actually the end of our discussion, which obviously is airline strategy from business development, from network development to business models. Now, I need to say that before I start our discussion today, that's airline strategy from network development to business models, I have a few questions for my viewers, more especially those working in middle or top management of an airline. You can answer these questions maybe before or after the third episode. And the first question I have for you is, how does your airline create value in networks? That is the first question I have for you. And the second question I have for you is, what instrument of capacity management do you employ in your airline? And the third question I have for you today is, what are success factors of large wide body airplanes such as Airbus 380 and small wide body airplanes such as Boeing 787 from network. That's for network carriers. So those are the three major questions I have for you today. Now I need you to stay tuned today as I take you through part one of our discussion on airline strategy from network development to business model, and that is development in aviation strategy. And here we are going to be looking at how did this strategy come in place and the development part of it. I'll be very brief actually in every part of it. And let's get started. And I need to say that actually until 1970s, barriers to entry and exit into airline business were high, and this left only few airlines dominate the market with very weak competition and almost no strategy like we see today to thrive in this competitive business. Now, US airline deregulation took place in 1978, and the act, that is US Airline Deregulation Act 1978, actually reduced many of the roadblocks, allowing new entrants into the market. Now, the new entrants that came into the market, actually, they posed a challenge to the status quo and gave rise to competitive structures in aviation. Now, new airlines that entered after regulation actually were also free to utilize much of non-union labor and widely available used inexpensive second-hand aircrafts, which lowered their cost of running and managing airline industry, which enabled them to charge less compared to the formerly regulated airlines. Okay, obviously the well-established airlines didn't just sit back. What they did is that what happens that well-established airlines that existed before regulation responded to the new competition with a range of innovative strategies, and among these innovative strategies were setting up a frequent flyer program and exploiting computer reservation system. And besides that, there was adoption of hub and spoke network, which allowed the airlines to dramatically reduce the number of flights required to still being able to actually provide universal coverage throughout their network. Now, these strategies actually, what happened that they actually helped reduce the cost of operation of the previously existing airlines, and this enabled them also to charge lower fares, just like the new entrants that were maximizing on non-union labor and used inexpensive aircraft. The strategy conferred advantages on larger airlines, allowing them to use their size as a weapon against smaller upstart airlines, destroying many of the new entrants. Apart from the introduction of a frequent flyer program and computer reservation system, there was also network management. And besides that, there are also other strategies that came into place. And some of these strategies were strategic alliances and customer relationship management. This gained importance, actually giving way to airline network, hence development of airline strategies, as we shall go through some of them. So even after regulation, I must say that airline industry still faces quite a number of issues that affect the industry's strategy. And among these issues, we find that strategic management, which one of the big issue is strategic management, which will prevent the industry from developing like other industries. That is one huge challenge they face. And another challenge they face is decision making, whereby the industry decisions are still politicized on sensitive airline matters such as merger and acquisition, leave alone agreement on destination of cross-border flights, which are still defined by government in bilateral air agreement in consideration of national interest, contrary to free air market. Now, having discussed development of aviation strategy, I now need to look at airline strategy approaches. So briefly, that's how the airline the airline strategy started, the development started, and that's just a brief part of it. And now allow me to look at airline strategy approach. What are some of the approaches actually that we see today? And that's what I'm going to look at. Now I need to say that in looking at airline strategy approaches, I need to say that airline employs either static or dynamic strategy depending on what it wants to achieve. And static strategies are used by airline in case they want to protect existing market position in which the brand and hub dominance plays important role. And if we look at dynamic strategies, these are used if the intention of the airline is market development and moving forward through learning and building up of a knowledge database. These are the two major strategies airline does employ. And I also need to say that airline strategy is not a single element or a collection of parts, but is rather a combination of several factors that make a whole system of activities. Some of these factors put into consideration network. Besides network, we have alliance or airlines working with each other to utilize the resources available. And also besides that, we have the market. Those are the three factors I'm going to be looking at. Okay, and obviously these factors, they don't work independently. They work together to help an airline actually achieve what we call the airline strategy. It doesn't work in isolation. That's basically what I just mentioned earlier. So let's look at some of these factors that actually are very important in forming in airline strategy. And let's start with network. First, network. I'm going to combine network and partnership and alliances. And let me look at network first. I need to say that a network is a collection of nodes and edges, and airline network generally consists of air traffic connections, which are edges, from one airport to another nodes. So that is basically what a network is. And the network has important link to service attributes such as punctuality and geographical coverage, depending on the outlay, which can either be hub and spoke system or a point-to-point network. I know that I'll be using some technical terms, and more especially if you're not in airline industry, you might find it very challenging to understand. But this presentation actually is meant for people already working in aviation industry, to be specific in airline, but also for students who are studying aviation or management or airport and operation management. So basically, like I said, the network has important link to service attributes such as punctuality and geographical coverage. And I say that there are two major outlays if you're going to discuss on service attributes, and one of them is hub and spoke system and a point-to-point network. Now, a hub and spoke system strategy builds on the consolidation of air traffic through the hub, and obviously it enables airlines that have no direct ground access to customer rely on feeder flights. That's basically what happens. And now, low-cost carriers often operate on basis of point-to-point transportation services on high-volume routes. Most of these routes are served with quick turnaround times, and carriers have few or one type of aircraft. That's basically what happens. If you're very careful, you'll also observe that airports which are served by low-cost carrier are often dominated by one company, which results in high bargaining power for this carrier. Now, the network can be operated with a much lower, most point-to-point. What happens that the network can be operated with a much lower degree of complexity. Like the opening and closure of point-to-point traffic does not affect the overall network structure, unlike in hub and spoke system. Now, that is about network, and like I said, I'm going to separate network and alliances. So the second point I'm going to look at in airline strategy approaches is partnership and alliances. And I need to say that today most major airlines are involved in some kind of alliances. And the three big alliances we have, the Star Alliance, you can name the second one, One World, and the third one is SkyTeam. Now, SkyTeam, and these three actually, they contain almost 3/4 of the worldwide scheduled air traffic. Now, the main reason why these alliances are formed are revenue generation through code sharing and selling seat on each other's flight. Another reason is alliances create mutual access to airport lounge, pooling of frequent flyer program, and joint marketing and thus share the cost. And where this alliance goes beyond airline, and we have what you call the airline airport alliances, then we have benefits such as joint financing activities, coordination of operating processes, and sharing of business risks and cost. All these can be accrued actually through such alliances like airline airport alliances. Now, besides network and partnership slash alliances, the second another approach of alliance is shared resources. And actually, you find that most airlines share resources, and that's in line with branding, with service level, with customer relationship management, and hub dominance. I'll be very brief in each one of them because I'll try to keep time. Okay, like I said at the beginning, airline strategy is much about creating business value for airline, and airline find it necessary to do so. Now, actually, airlines would want to associate with a brand which has positive attributes, and that becomes a strategy that an airline wants to associate with another airline which has a better brand, obviously with positive attributes. And when we talk about these positive attributes, we're looking at attributes such as quality and reliability, which represent an important asset for another airline to capitalize on. This is a strategy that lifts less known airlines by being associated with major airlines, and that's a strategy for one airline. Now, besides the brand, also some airlines may not have a wide range of different attributes. And here I'm looking at, for example, lounge access from ground to in-flight amenities and meals that's in the air. Examples are small airlines, more especially local airlines that carry connecting passengers. As we shall see, the kind of configuration they have, the arrangement and stuff like that, you'll find that some of the passengers who use these local airlines, they're able actually to access such services due to partnership or alliances with other airlines, more especially if they're connecting to other destinations. They're dropped maybe from one airport and then they're connecting to another destination. Now, such service level can, for example, now, if airline without such service, we find that its service level can be improved through alliance, which allows passenger to utilize resources of airline in alliance with. You get it? Now, another thing is that airline also strategize to retain existing customers. And one way they do that is that through a well-planned customer relationship management. They come up with reward systems such as frequent flyer program, FFP, and such program actually they represent a mechanism that allows transforming monetary value into a new currency seen by client as a pure financial reward. And obviously with such financial reward, then we find that some clients are able to consistently or frequently use a specific airline. Now, while this non-monetary award lead to an increased customer value, the associated status system actually differentiates customers, and besides differentiating customer, is also able to provide them with personally identifiable services, meaning that now, okay, I'm a special client to this airline, and there's as a client, I'm identified with certain specific services which are served by airline, and that means that some of these clients they continue using a specific for such reasons. Now, I need to say that it's a very important strategy for an airline, more especially in customer relationship management, and obviously through a reward system, like I mentioned, the FFP and stuff like that, which enables clients to see that, actually they are valued and they are actually rewarded, and they look at frequent flyer program as a financial reward, and obviously that retains them. Now, I need also to look at the hub dominance, and I need to say that in line with hub dominance, the dominant airline of an airport offers the best connections, and this makes it attractive to other airlines to use the hub if there is a good selection of connecting flight. And that obviously, that becomes a strategy. And that's why we find that most countries, more especially the countries that have their own airline, the airline becomes dominates actually that particular hub. Let's take an example. You go to OR Tambo, you'll find that actually it's dominated by South African Airways. If you go to Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, you'll find it dominated by Kenya Airways. You go to Rwanda, you'll find it's dominated by Rwandair. And the same applies to other countries. This, however, can be unattractive if the size and crowdedness of the airport becomes problematic, and this leading obviously to increased waiting time at the check-in and security. This is problematic. Besides that, when we have longer distances between gates, that's another problem. And obviously with such challenges, we find that passengers now may choose another airline other than the one dominating those airports. So it's a strategy by every country that as long as they have their own airline, then that airline actually ends up dominating the hub. Now let's look at marketing as an airline strategy approach. And under marketing, I'm going to look at pricing. Besides pricing, I'm also going to look at distribution channels. Besides distribution channel, I also need to look at the quality leadership strategy and the cost leadership strategy. And lastly, I'm going to look at the niche carrier strategy. I'll briefly take you through this, and I hope that you'll be able to understand how airlines actually strategize, how they use marketing as an approach in creating a strategy for themselves. Now, let's start. I need to say that today, marketing as an airline strategy, I need to say that is going to mark the end of part one of airline strategy from network involvement to business model. And obviously, after marketing as an airline strategy approach, the next time actually what you're going to look at, I'll be focusing on network management of airline operations, and then I'll finalize with airline business models, and then I'll look at a few flight concepts and stuff like that. Now, let me start with pricing. Pricing, I said obviously under marketing, I'll briefly look at pricing, distribution channel, quality leadership, and cost leadership, and the niche carrier strategy. Let me look at pricing, the pricing under marketing strategy. Now, pricing in aviation has, apart from its revenue generating and positioning function, besides that, it's actually an important task of steering demand. And in aviation, prices are constantly adopted according to the reservation curve, reflecting current and projected ticket purchases, and second, according to the service and booking categories. Now, as for the service category today, most airlines operate a three-class system. Now, airlines commonly fence service classes by service product elements, and some of these service product elements are, for example, lounge access, ground service, seat quality, and catering. Now, booking classes are fenced by booking conditions, and some of these conditions, such for example, the minimum time for pre-booking, refund, and minimum stay. And the general aim of pricing strategy is to target each single passenger's maximum readiness to pay and to travel. Now, different pricing strategies that may be applied in aviation industry could be the matching strategy with the goal of either gaining or preserving market shares, or a skimming strategy with the goal of skimming the market of a well-paying customer. That's basically what happens. Now, apart from pricing, I'm going to look at the distribution channels under marketing as an airline strategy. And I need to say that airlines must come up with clear strategy on how to enter or serve its market. They can choose either to do indirect offline sales or online sales. They have to choose which one will basically work for them. Under quality leadership, I need to say that quality leadership as a strategy under marketing means it means an airline special focus is on attributes such as quality and service, both on ground and in the air. For instance, Emirates is known for its service, and that is its strategy as an airline. Now, cost leadership as a strategy, I need to say that Airlines that follow cost leadership strategy are often called low-cost or no-frill carrier. They strive to outperform rivals by producing their services at a high labor and capital productivity. In general, the achievement of low-cost position requires high market share so that economies of scale can be realized. Now, these low-cost airlines have significantly lower input costs due to reduced service level. And this is by cutting off most frills. These carriers usually, they do not offer free meals or in-flight entertainment. Some of them don't have lounges, and they have single class. And besides that, you find that there is high density seating configuration, which is employed in most of their aircrafts. Now, the simplicity of low-cost business model is reflected in its simple, one-way best pricing structure of fares, which only makes use of minimal fencing restrictions. Now, low-cost airlines generally sell their inventory, inventory on a first-come, first-served basis. And in regard to distribution channel management, low-cost airlines usually rely on ticketless direct online sales through their own homepage. Now, lastly, I'm going to look at niche carrier strategy, or sometimes we call it the focus strategy. And niches in air transport is either service-related, geographically defined, or confined on cost advantages. The niche or focus strategy is directed towards serving the need of a limited customer group or market segment. In this kind of strategy, airlines are supposed to be able to gain competitive advantage by better serving the need of the chosen segment and by concentrating their effort and activities. Now, actually, this marks the end of part 1 of Airline Strategy, from network development to business model. Make sure you subscribe for part 2 of this topic, and the part 2, it will be network